Today on the 1012 podcast, we are making picks for every Big 12 game in Week 3 with our good friends Chase Kitty and guest Myles Giller of Sons of UCF. That includes the Bayou Bucket, the Battle for the Victory Bell, of course the Backyard Brawl, the Turnpike Classic, and some absolutely fantastic games. Coming up in just a minute.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the 1012, the podcast that covers all 16 teams in the Big 12 Conference. We are the flagship show of the 1012 Network. Find every show on the network at 1012network.com. And we are partners with Sports Social, Europe's biggest sports podcast network. I am your host, Phillip Slavin. Thank you for joining us for our Week 3 picks show. Very excited about this one today. It's going to be a long episode. We've got a lot of games to pick. Soon, we'll get down to like 6 games a week, 7 games a week, 8 games a week. We'll have time to spend like lots of time on those. But for now, we're going to have to kind of blow through a few, which is disappointing because this is a fun week. Don't listen to anyone nationally who tells you that this is one of those weeks where you just take the Saturday off. Just worry about your game. There's only 2 ranked on ranked matchups, and one of them is Missouri and Boston College, and the other one's on a Friday. Don't worry about this weekend. This weekend is loaded with non-con rivalry games. All sorts of fun in-state little things and rivalry games from the past and teams that everybody gets up for. Now, nationally, it's not the most exciting thing. I get it. But man, this is a fun weekend. So we're going to pick every Big 12 game. We get one non-Big 12 game. And when I say we, I mean myself as well as my weekly pro picker, the guy who knows what he's talking about on here. He is of BetMGM, Chase A. Kitty.
What is up, Phillip? Happy to be here on a Wednesday night. I have a Michelob Ultra, a Mountain Dew Voltage, a Red Bull, and a tumbler of water because you got to stay hydrated. And I'm ready to pick some games.
That is an unusual arsenal of beverages for a Wednesday night.
You got to move back and forth depending on what pick you're on. You know, sometimes you're picking that risky dog and you need a swig of the Mick. So we're here to get into it. Sponsors welcome here on 1012.
Yeah, uppers and downers. And joining us this week is we have a guest picker each week, Myles Giller, who does picks each week for the Sons of UCF podcast. That is, of course, the UCF show here of the 1012 Network. Welcome back for a second year, Myles.
Thank you for having me. As far as beverages, I've got a little ice water and some coffee with cream, so we're going to roll with that.
Coffee with cream, man. Y'all, I'm going to do this show and go straight to bed. I don't need caffeine. I've just got some water so I can try and get this stupid cough that's been lingering for a month to go away. Y'all crazy. Yeah, I know what it is. It's none of you have kids. None of you have children, okay? You're almost about to. Myles' children are 2 dogs. And so we're not doing parenting advice on this episode because unless Myles wants to give advice on owning 2 furry friends, I don't know that he's going to have anything of note for Chase.
I feel like I've learned a thing or two here or there. I mean, they eat, they poop, blah blah blah. You know, God's time runs a little late on the East Coast. So
that's exactly what it is, Myles. Myles and I are over here on the East Coast. It's 9 o'clock at night. It'll be 11 o'clock by the time we're done with this. We got to stay awake.
All right. Well, let's try to make sure we're done before 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and kind of get through this. Look, there's not a ton of news in the Big 12 to worry about right now, so we don't have to deal with that. So let's just hop into what happened last week, recap the weekend that was. It was not a good week for any of us. Our good friend Kelly Ford, who was our guest last week, the week's winner at 6-6, not finishing, or actually it's 6-6-1, forgive me. He hit on Tulane plus 9.5 against Kansas State. Hit on Pitt, lowercase p Pitt, plus 2.5. Baylor plus 14.5. UCF minus 22. Washington State minus 1.5. And Texas minus 7.5. His push was Arkansas plus 8. That game ended at 8 points. The misses were SMU minus 11.5, Iowa minus 2.5, Kansas minus 5.5. We all got that one wrong. The consensus curse is back, people. Missed on Colorado plus 7.5, OU minus 28.5, and Mississippi State plus 6.5. 6-6 for our guests, 10-1 for the total. So Myles, all you got to do is finish one spot above 500, and you'll be a big winner. Because so far our guests have both weeks have gone an even 500. So really, really gonna have to work hard to beat those records. Chase, you and I both went 4-9.
Ugh.
Chase hit on the over 62.5 in OSU, Arkansas, hit on Tulane plus 9.5, hit on Nebraska minus 7, and hit on Tulsa plus 7.5 against Arkansas State. They got the cover, but not the win. The misses were SMU minus 11.5, Cincy minus 2, Utah minus 14.5, under 35.5 in Iowa State, Iowa. Sam Houston plus 23.5 versus UCF, Kansas minus 5.5, OU minus 28.5, Texas Tech plus 2.5, and Mississippi State plus 6.5. 4-9 on the week brings you to 8-13 on the season so far, bud.
Don't like it.
Don't like. I also went 4-9, hit on the over 62.5 in OSU, Arkansas, hit on Iowa State plus 3. That was your big bet, was the under there, Chase, that under 35.5.
It was, and I thought I was looking good for a while.
Yeah, you were. I hit on the over 57.5 in UCF Sam Houston and hit on Nebraska minus 7. The misses, all those overs I was so confident in. The over 55.5 in BYU SMU, not even close. Missed on Kansas State minus 8.5. Missed on Cincy minus 2. That was a winner until Cincy blew it. Missed on Utah minus 14.5. Had Cam Rising not gone down, Chase, I think you and I had that one. Missed on Kansas minus 5.5. Missed on the over 49 in Houston OU, not even close. Missed on the over 66 in Texas Tech Wazoo, not even close. And missed on the over 59.5 in Arizona State, Mississippi State, not that close. And missed on Kentucky minus 10. Good grief, Kentucky. 4-9 on the week, 8-13 on the season. We got to turn this thing around. We got to turn this thing around, and we got to do it quickly. So, any other thoughts, feelings, concerns, ideologies, opinions you want to dump now before we dive into this, boys?
Yeah, I was the sicko that took the over in Iowa State, and I was bet what was it, 70-something yard reception by Iowa State for a touchdown. Let's go.
Look at you taking the over in a Cyhawk, in an Elastico. Bravo, sir. You get it. You got it. It had to happen at some point, like it had to at some point.
I'll just double down on something I said last week, which was this is, we force action on the podcast because it's fun to bet every game, to talk about what side you bet at every game. This is the importance from a handicapping perspective of pick your spots versus bet everything on the board. You cannot win betting everything on the board. It's very, very difficult. So that's the difference between me being, what'd you say, 8-13 for show picks versus over in the column at MGM. I think I'm like 11-3 on the season so far. So yeah.
We will drop the link for Chase's week 3 picks over on BetMGM in the show notes so that you can follow those each week. Since those are 11-3, you should be picking those things, not following us on this show, which is just for fun. If you're following us to actually make picks and not just to preview the weekend, you are the true sicko. And I would prefer you just take the money you're going to bet and put it in an envelope and email me, and I will get you my address so that you can just mail it straight to me, because that will put the money to better use than actually following our picks on here. All right, y'all ready for the week?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's get this ball rolling. Now, ESPN, what are you doing? This kicks off on Thursday. I don't need you to tell me this, ESPN. I don't need you to give me the correct things. This kicks off on Thursday for the Big 12. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a fun one. 6:30 p.m. God's time, Central Time, on ESPN. Arizona State traveling down to Texas State. First ever meeting between these two teams. It's our first of 2 first ever meetings this weekend in the Big 12. Ooh, I'm excited for this one. Arizona State currently about a 1.5 point favorite. Total is pretty much 60 and a half across the board. Myles is our guest, sir. You get to go first. What would you like?
Well, Thursday nights typically are weird. I like Texas State a lot, actually. Texas State has been impressive. Jordan McLeod transfers from JMU. Head coach GJ Kinney comes from the Heupel. He's like a Heupel disciple. They like to throw the ball. They've thrown it almost 30 times a game. Jordan McLeod hasn't looked the most comfortable all the time. He's thrown 5 touchdowns, 2 picks, but further we get through the season, I expect him to kind of settle down a little bit. Arizona State might be the surprise of the Big 12 this year. So far, they look good. Scadaboo can't be stopped. He's probably could be one of the best running backs in the nation. UCF would hate to hear me say that because everyone's trying to chant RJ Harvey, But no, Scadaboo, he looks really good. I don't know if either of these teams have the defense to stop each other. Plus, Thursday night weirdness could be a fun game. I'm going to go over 60 on this one.
An over out of the gate. Love it. Love to see it, sir. All right, Chase, what you want?
Well, yeah, I mean, to tie into what I said out of the open, there's handicapping and then there's gambling, right? Handicapping is using trends, analytics, and market evaluation to make an educated decision in a specific betting market where you feel like you have an edge against the number. Gambling is guessing. And this game, to me, is guessing, as far as I can tell, because you kind of have to decide whether or not you think Arizona State is good based on the performances we've seen so far. How much stock do you want to put into wins over Wyoming and Mississippi State? Your mileage may vary. I personally I was impressed. I mean, if you only saw the box score from the Mississippi State game, like Arizona State beat the crap out of them. That game was not competitive, and then Mississippi State made it a 1-score game in garbage time. So I thought that was impressive, but I actually think the best decision, the best outcome that either of these teams have played so far was Texas State blowing out UTSA last week, who was favored to win, at least at the start of the year. They were favored to win, I believe, the American. So I thought that was actually the most impressive decision. I was kind of down on Texas State coming into the year. Myles mentioned that Jordan McLeod came over from JMU to play quarterback. Listeners may know I'm a JMU graduate, so I have watched Jordan McLeod very, very carefully over the last year. I just don't think he's that good. I think his success at JMU was the product of a loaded roster that's now playing in the Big Ten. So I was skeptical, but I think Texas State's looked really good, man. And I think having a power conference team come to San Marcos, which almost never happens. I think this is the second time ever it's happened. They played Baylor once, I think a few years ago. And that's kind of it. Texas State opened as a favorite. This is swung toward Arizona State because they've had the hot start and looked really good. They're playing on the road for the first time. I kind of trend toward Texas State here. So want really no part of this game in real life, but I'll take the couple of points with Texas State here and look for the outright win.
I get Texas State plus 1.5.
Down to 1.5. Okay, I'll take that.
All right. 2 weeks ago, I would have picked Texas State to win this game straight up and just moved on. I would have been in the conversation. Now, this is a very interesting game, and I don't know which way to lean. A win over a Big 12 team would look really good on GJ Kinney's resume when he mails it into Baylor in just a couple of months. A big contrast in pace of play for this teams. Texas State plays really fast. They are 38th in plays per minute. Arizona State plays slow. They are 123rd in plays per minute. That's pretty big difference. Now, nationally, Texas State is number 1 in first half points margin. Arizona State is number 4. I just the over feels like the right side of the total. What was I doing? Look at that. Bet Rivers has a 59.5. Myles?
I'll take that.
Man, that's it. Ooh, they have a number, but I think that this game will get pointsy. I think Arizona State probably wins this. I'll run through the projections. SV Plus has Arizona State by 0.4. Tishu has Texas State by 0.5. FEI has Arizona State by 6.2. Beta Rank has Texas State by 1.9. Our good friend Parker Fleming has Arizona State by 6.79, and Kelly Ford gives Arizona State a 57% chance to win. So, again, it's the same problem of this is just a hard game to figure out from a projecting standpoint. We still don't have enough data this season. Arizona State's exceeding expectations. It's a hard one to pick. My gut says take the over. I got burned on all my overs last week, and so I'm super hesitant now to take overs. I'm going to ride the hot hand and go against Chase here and take Arizona State -1. And at -1, basically, I'm just picking Arizona State straight up to win. I lean towards them winning this game anyway. So the fact that I'm either going to get it or I'm not, if they're either going to win it, I'm going to get it, or they're not going to win it, I'm not going to get it, I feel very good there. So I will take Arizona State -1. All right, moving down our list. We've got 2 Big 12 games on Friday. Look at it, Thursday night game, 2 Friday night games. Like, you got it'd be great. This is a great weekend. What is this about? Take the weekend off. This is 3 straight days of quality Big 12 football we got on the schedule today. All right, on Friday, first up, 6 p.m. God's time, ESPN playing in Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City, Kansas, hosting UNLV. Kansas looking to bounce back from their loss to Illinois last weekend. That was weird and ugly. At the moment, Kansas is a 7.5 point favorite, pretty much consensus across the board. And the total in this one, pretty much 58.5. There's a 57.5 from FanDuel. But if you can bet it, you can pick it here on the show. Chase, you're up first, sir. What would you like?
I think I like UNLV here. It's not that Kansas lost last week. It's not even how they lost in terms of kind of getting beat up by a Big Ten team. I think that can happen even if you're playing maybe a Big Ten team that is perceived as below your level, just because it's a different style of football in the Big Ten. I think Daniels doesn't seem quite right to me. The team, I think, is the roster overall is maybe taking a little step back this year. And I like what UNLV has shown me so far. I was on them when we talked about that Houston game in week 1. They were +2.5. I said UNLV outright is going to win this game. I didn't think they were going to win by 20. But I think this UNLV team's really good. I think Sluka's really good. That was a great find that they got in the portal from Holy Cross when Bob Chesney comes down to Harrisonburg and takes a lot of his guys. Sluka doesn't come with him, and he ends up at UNLV. He's balling there. I think they're balanced. I think this team is in the hunt to get the G5 playoff spot. And my feeling here is that the market is not correcting hard enough on Kansas, which is why, Phillip, I'm guessing you're going to speak to maybe what some of the projected lines should be from models. Some of those lines have this game closer to like Kansas -13. I just think that needs a correction. And I think 7.5 is actually more in the ballpark of where this should be. So I'll take UNLV. I love that I can get to 7.5 now, because when I was doing prep, I was seeing a lot of 7s. So having the hook here is really nice. Give me the 7.5.
It's yours, sir. Yeah, I'll run through them real quick. SP Plus has Kansas by 9.1. T-Shoe has Kansas -12. FEI has Kansas -7.7. Beta has Kansas -13.45. Parker has Kansas -12.78. And K Ford has Kansas 69% chance to win. Look, Illinois out-physicaled Kansas last week, which was crazy. I don't think Kansas played as physical as Illinois did. UNLV is not going to do that. Kansas should want to try and flex its offense and get some of the kinks out that have been obvious through the first 2 weeks of the season. Still trying to get adjusted to the Grimes offense. UNLV can score, which is why I kind of lean either UNLV or the over. This one feels like it should be a higher scoring affair. Now, look, I just said I was scared of overs. I can get a 57.5 for Kansas UNLV in this one. Let me run through the total projections for everybody. SP Plus is 63. T-Shoe is 61.5. FEI is 53.9. Beta is 65.62. And Parker is 62.8. Give me the over in this one. I think that it's going to get close, but I also feel like, would it shock anyone? I mean, Kansas fans, yes. If we think UNLV has a shot here, it could also be a weird Friday night overtime game because you're playing this at a soccer field. Like, Kansas is going to have more fans than UNLV is, but it's not a true home field. It's in Kansas City on a soccer field. I'm not going to pick a soccer score. I'm going to pick an over. I will take the over, man, because I can get a 57. If it was just the 58s, I would be like, ugh, but I can get a 57.5. I'll take it. Myles?
UNLV's quarterback, he's their leading rusher. He can create plays. He's explosive. Jalen Daniels, we've seen, can do the same. We haven't seen it yet this year. Don't know exactly what's going on there. And we know Devin Neal, he can get his. I've been going back and forth on this myself. I don't know. UNLV looked really good last year. We haven't really seen them up against, cream of the crop. I don't know. Kansas looked like they kind of sleptwalked a little bit last week. So I expect them to bounce back a little bit this week at home, hosting UNLV. I'm hoping this is one of those where I'm just like shot in the dark, like throwing a dart at the board. I'm hoping Kansas can bounce back. I'm going to take Kansas minus the points.
KU minus 7.5. It is yours, sir. All right. I do want to note real quick before we move on. Devin Neal, as you mentioned, currently ranks number 4 in Kansas football history for career rushing yards with 3,290 and number 2 for career rushing touchdowns at 35. June Henley is the leader in both those categories at 38-41 yardage and 41 touchdowns. Barring injury, knock on wood, I bet Neal breaks both those records this season, if not by the midpoint. All right, other Friday game we've got, as we're calling it, the Battle of the Scratching Post. 2 cats enter. Only one cat will leave victorious. Arizona State, the second of 2 Big 12 versus Big 12 non-con games this season. So I love calling it the Scratching Post Showdown. This is, again, one of the only 2 matchups between ranked teams this weekend. And while not technically a rivalry, it could be one start of one. Arizona is wearing their script Cats helmets for this game, which is glorious. And Kansas State's not going to do it. They're not going to wear their script cat helmets. They won't do it. But if there is a God, and he can meddle a little bit, if we could get both teams to wear their script cats helmets in this game, that it would break the weekend. Like, it would break the Twitters on Friday night. Everyone would love it. It'd be the best helmet matchup of the year. It would be absolutely incredible. Let's all just say a prayer right now that somehow Kansas State decides, let's do it. Let's give this a shot. Let's hope. We can all hope, right? It's you don't crush my dreams. As of right now, this game being played in Manhattan at Bill Snyder Family Stadium at 7:00 on Friday on Fox. Fox's new big primetime Friday night game. Kansas currently a 7-point favorite. Kansas State. 7-point favorite. Total at 59.5, pretty much across the board. I'm up first. The numbers are all over the place. SP Plus has Kansas State minus 9.3. TSU has Kansas State minus 14. Kansas State FEI has Kansas State minus 11.1. Beta has Kansas State minus 1.9. Parker has Kansas State minus 0.36. So we got a pretty big variance there from 0.36 to 14. Totals anywhere between 57 and 64. Here's the deal. Arizona has been bad at yards allowed before contact, and they are also tied for 119th in total penalties in the FBS with 19 through 2 weeks. That's not things you want to do against Kansas State, who's going to be able to run the ball and who plays fairly disciplined, especially at home. Arizona was down a couple of offensive linemen, including their center last week. That might explain why the offense played the way it did. Kansas State's got a couple of offensive linemen banged up. No shocker, things happen. Kansas State secondary, 114th in opponent QBR allowed. They're playing Noah Fifita this week. They allowed 5 passing touchdowns of 30 yards, or 5 passing plays of 30 yards or more last week. Tulane's quarterback also went 19 for 29, 342 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Receiver Mario Williams had 6 catches for 128 yards. They're playing Noah Fifita and Teteroa McMillan. I think we all can agree that they're better than Tulane's quarterback and receiver duo. Is Kansas State finally going to let Avery Johnson go out and run, or are they going to keep treating him with kids' gloves? Because from a passing standpoint, he hasn't been awesome. At least not what Kansas State fans were all saying that he was going to be. They haven't really let him run. Are they going to let him run this game? I think they're going to have to let him run in this game. I don't think you can keep waiting until conference play. Like, The further into this week that I have gotten, the further I've gotten towards the fact that I get Kansas State at 7.5 with a hook, because there's 2 7.5s right here on this board. I'm going to take the other Wildcats, the ones from Arizona, to get the cover of the 7.5 and potentially outright win this. This one could get a little, neither of these teams are fast, so I'm not sure about the score, but man, Kansas State secondary has not been great through 2 weeks. No Fafita, Tetero and McMillan going to have themselves a fun night. I'm going to take Arizona to cover plus 7.5. Myles?
Yeah, you ask if they're going to continue to treat Avery Johnson with kid gloves or not, and I think they are. Through the first 2 games, I mean, the 2 backup quarterbacks have 4 attempts combined as far as passes go. I think that they value Avery Johnson. They think that he is the guy. I mean, if you look at all the hype behind him going into the season, like they were saying he was the guy last spring before any fall camps or anything happened. So I do think they're going to be careful with him. They're basically hanging their hat on him being healthy this season and being able to execute the offense. Although Avery Johnson has not been the guy that they've hyped him up to be so far this season. He's got 65% completion percentage, but it's not like he's lighting it up like everyone let it on to be. It's really, really hard to bet against Fafita and McMillan. They might be the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the country. They might have been the best duo last year. McMillan had a really bad game last week, but these are teenagers, young adults. Like you're not going to expect them to. They're not going to ball out every single week. You don't know what's going on, like at all, like behind the scenes. So I think this is going to be a bounce back week for Arizona. Bounce back week for their offense. I'm going to take Arizona plus 7.5.
I'm looking at the total here. I mean, Phillip, you mentioned the Kansas State secondary and defense concerns. I share those. They made Darian Mensah look like a future pro last week, Tulane's quarterback. This is not a typical Chris Kleiman defense as I see it. And maybe he'll get things fixed in season, but right now I don't trust that unit at all. I will also throw some shade at Arizona's defense. I was up late week 1, Saturday night, watching that game against New Mexico. They did not look particularly adept either on the defensive side of the ball in that game. I, like Myles, am kind of writing off the Arizona offensive performance against Northern Arizona. I think they kind of looked at that game and thought, hey, we don't need to do much special here. Let's keep it vanilla. We're just going to run sort of the standard offensive base sets and just get out of here with our skin intact. So I'm not overreading that. I think we're going to see points here. I think both offenses are going to run ahead of both defenses. And I said that a lot last week. So I have the same sort of skepticism here playing the over that Phillip mentioned earlier. But I am going to go ahead and take the over, I believe, 58.5.
Where's your? All I see are 59.5. But if you got a 58.5, I will trust you.
It does look like it's now going to 59.5. All my notes are from earlier this evening. So yeah, looks like 59.5 now. So I'll take that.
Numbers are moving, man.
Yeah.
Okay, we can move on to Saturday. Our first game that we are going to pick. This is a rivalry game. Some Oklahoma State fans may argue with you, but it is. Oklahoma State traveling to Tulsa, currently called the Gateway First Bank Turnpike Classic. It's a Turnpike Classic, and then whoever wants to sponsor it. At one point, I think it was like the Phillip 66 one. I don't remember. You've had different sponsors for this. It's the Turnpike Classic. Teams first met in 1914. Played a few times. This is year 1 of an 8-game series that's scheduled between these two teams. OSU leads the all-time series 44-28-5 and has won the last 9 in a row. As I mentioned, some OSU fans will say it's not a rivalry. It is, and that's fine, and it's fun, and in-state things are fun. Let's just have fun. There's a meme I like, which is just a guy holding someone else's mouth shut and saying, shh, let people enjoy things. So let's enjoy this as a rivalry game. This number has come down a little bit. We have this at Oklahoma State minus 19 and a half. Was it 20 at one point, at least earlier today? Total is at 62 and a half, pretty much as a consensus. Myles, you are up first, sir. What would you like for this one?
Well, I'll just start off saying the best part about rivalries is half of the time there's one side of the rivalry saying it's not a rivalry at all. UCF's going through that right now, a little bit with the Cows out west. Just for those people in the Big 12 not familiar, USF is in West Florida, not South Florida. But either way, yes, that's the most fun part about these rivalries is that a lot of times half of the rivalry completely dismisses it. Either way, Ollie Gordon, leading up to the season, looked like he would be front runner for a Heisman. He's kind of let up a little bit in last week's game. He averaged 2.9 yards a carry against an Arkansas team who honestly outgained Oklahoma State by like 300 yards and somehow still found a way to lose that game. I don't know. I look at the Tulsa side of this. Being a UCF fan, I probably shouldn't be talking about Tulsa in any slight because, I mean, we could never find a way to win against Tulsa. But anywho, Tulsa allowed 28 points to both Northwestern State and Arkansas State. I think this is a big bounce back for Oklahoma State, even on the road. Like you said, in-state rivalry. Ollie Gordon needs to find his way back to the running back he was last season. I've got some concerns with the Oklahoma State offensive line, but I'm still going to ride with Oklahoma State minus 19.
I have an 18 and a half. No, I have an 18 and a half. I have an 18 and a half.
I will take the half point. Let's go.
It's yours, sir. Chase, what would you like?
I think if Oklahoma State, I mean, this is a big if, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you this, Phillip, but if Oklahoma State plays to their level, right, they cover 18 and a half, right? So you're betting on, are you going to get the appropriate performance out of Oklahoma State? I like the idea. Sometimes in betting, you're kind of looking at psychology and spots and natural ups or natural downs more so than like, this is how I think the linebackers match up with the mid-level running game. And I think that coming off of a really slow, lethargic first half against Arkansas, you go on a road trip down the road. I haven't been to a ton of Big 12 campuses. I have been to Stillwater, and I took a drive up to Tulsa while I was there because I was bored. So I understand what that drive is. You go on a little road trip, a little business trip down the road to play sort of a pseudo rival who really probably wants to take your head while you're visiting their stadium. I think all of that combines for a place where you're very focused about going in and performing to expectations. So I'm actually going to lay the 18 and a half with Oklahoma State here. I am getting the better team in a spot that I hope is focused. That said, there's always the one game every year where a Gundy team just absolutely does not show up, and I hope I am not stepping on the landmine in week 3.
That may have been week 2, the way they started.
It may have been.
All right, let's run through some numbers here. SP Plus has Oklahoma State minus 20.4. TSU has OSU minus 17.5. FEI has OSU minus 18.9. Beta has OSU minus 12.33. Parker has OSU minus 26.34. And Kelly has OSU winning by 90. Has a 93% chance to win. Totals are, let me give you just the range. I have as low as 54.7 from FEI and as high as 80.6 from Beta Rank. Forgive me. Betting trends here. Tulsa covered their last 2 against Oklahoma State in 2020 and 2021. OSU is 2-5 in their last 7 as a favorite of 2 touchdowns or more. However, they are 5-1 as a road favorite against the spread. So do with those numbers as you will. Don't you love when stats are like conflicting and so they don't really tell you anything? OSU is currently one of 3 FBS teams averaging less than 20 seconds per play. That is nuts. These 2 teams are 125th and 127th in explosiveness allowed. They give up big plays. Okay, last note. OSU is without linebacker Colin Oliver for at least 3 to 4 weeks. The guy who filled in last week is the one that Mike Gundy said was not expensive. That's how he described him. I will be filling in. He is Oliver is tied with Derek Harmon of Oregon in quarterback pressures through week 2 at 13, according to PFF. Remind you, Colin Oliver didn't play the second half last week. OSU is going to miss him. All of that said, I'm wary of OSU at this number. I do think they are 3 touchdowns better than Tulsa. It also never surprises me when OSU plays a close game with Tulsa. It's close at half, and then they pull away. And I absolutely can see OSU being happy pulling away with a 17-point win and not covering this number. It scares me. What I do wonder about is this total at 62.5. I kind of wonder if this is not the right side to do, but it feels like the right play. I kind of want to take the under here. OSU's got to figure out the offensive line issues with the run game. They are just not opening up the holes that they want for as experienced as line is. They knew defenses were going to load the box. They knew defenses were going to key on Colin Oliver, and they still haven't figured out how to counter that despite having a tire fall to do it. That's also very Oklahoma State to take 3 to 4 weeks to figure out how to do something you should have figured out all the way back in August. So, with that in mind, I'm going to say OSU gets the win. I'm afraid of taking them at 18.5. I was going to take Tulsa when it was 20. Absolutely. At 18.5, I realize it's not that big of a difference there. I'm just so wary of it. I'm going to take the under. Total in this one is 62.5. That's the biggest number I've got. That's the biggest number I will take. I will take the under 62.5 in OSU Tulsa. All right. I told you it's rivalry weekend. We got another one. Another power conference team on the road at an in-state G5 team for a rivalry game. This one is the battle for the victory bell between Cincinnati and Miami of Ohio. Gotta love it. Absolutely love it. Another 11 a.m. game on Saturday. This one on ESPNU in Oxford, Ohio. This series been played 127 times. Began back in 1888. 1888. But it is going on hiatus. They'll play again in 2026, and who knows when. I understand why teams keep doing this stuff. Just keep the rivalry game. And it's we don't like them, and they don't like us. And yeah, that's the whole point of a rivalry. You're not supposed to like each other. It's not we love kumbaya. Let's all give each other hugs and share a drink. You don't have to be friends. Enjoy the rivalry. Have fun with it. Or is this just because that Miami of Ohio beat you last year, Cincinnati, and you're afraid that they're going to do it again? I'm going to call you out. I'm just going to do it. Go listen to Viva La Cats. That's our Cincinnati show here on the network, and they do a great job. All right. The numbers in this one. Cincinnati, currently a 3.5-point favorite. Total in this one is at 46.5. Chase, you're up first. Chase, correct one thing for me. That number for Cincinnati seems like it has moved up quite a bit.
What I saw was an open at 2.5. Are you talking about the total?
No. The side.
Yeah, the side it opened Cincinnati 2.5 as a short road favorite, and it flipped all the way through the 3 to 3.5. And that's a good eye by you because that's kind of where I'm looking at this. I like Miami. I like Miami of Ohio to begin with, right? You're talking about this is a rivalry game. You're talking about giving a team 3 points plus the hook. They're a home dog. And I think a lot of people look at Miami of Ohio and see a MAC team. I think it's probably a struggle for people to remember that A, this is a rivalry, unless you live in the Ohio area. B, that Miami of Ohio won this game last year outright. And C, Miami of Ohio is either, depending on where you look, either the favorite to win the MAC or right there in the mix with Toledo. I'm sure Northern Illinois' win at Notre Dame probably affected some of those odds as well in the last 4 to 5 days. But they are considered one of the top teams in the conference. I think when you look at the number, which is where I like to start for a lot of these handicaps, Cincinnati as a road 2.5-point favorite, that is such a hook line because every common bettor who has even basic understanding of numbers and key numbers and things of that nature understands, well, 3 is a key number in football. 7 is a key number. So if I get 2.5, if I get 6.5, that's a valuable place to bet a favorite. A lot of times the sports book understands that, and they are intentionally hanging that to invite action on the favorite. They are tacitly taking a side in the game. That's how sports books take sides. So the fact that they open as sort of that bait dog at 2.5, and then the market kind of predictably bets this enough to take it through the 3 to 3.5. I like the side. I like the number. I like everything about the Miami of Ohio side for this. So it's all wrapped up in a nice little box. Give me Miami.
Chase, I'm coming along with you. Miami plus 3.5. The total, based off projections, is like right on the money. Here's why I'm taking Miami with you. SP Plus has Cincy minus 5.7. T-Shoe has Miami of Ohio minus 2. FEI has Cincy minus 1.6. Beta has Miami of Ohio minus 4.34. Parker has Cincinnati minus 2.27. K4 gives Cincinnati a 52% chance to win this game. I'm also curious. You and I were texting last week about Brendan Sorsby.
I forgot to mention this too. Yeah.
And how good he looked.
Looked great.
And then he got injured. He got not injured, but he got tackled, and there's questions about that tackle. He didn't play so good afterwards. Now maybe he's healthy. Maybe it was just a little stinger, and he put it on ice, and he's feeling great this week. Or maybe it's going to linger, whatever that was, right? So that concerns me because I do like Brendan Sorsby. I do think he's played pretty well to start the season, but if he is a little dinged up on the road, rivalry game, you're actually going to Miami of Ohio. That hook is a big deal. Getting that 3.5, even if Cincinnati wins, they only win by a field goal, I get the win. I'll take Miami of Ohio plus 3.5. Myles?
I don't know if I'm going to look at a side on this one. I think I'll let the cat out of the bag. No pun intended. I'm going to look at the total. I don't know. I get the feel from this game it's going to be one of those ugly games, one of those nooners that you just flip past on Saturday. Disclaimer though, you shouldn't flip past anything. We only get 14 regular seasons or regular season weeks of college football. Enjoy it while you can. But I don't know. Miami's leading rusher, granted they only have one game against Northwestern, has 33 yards on the season. Their starting quarterback threw 2 interceptions in that game. Miami has not scored a touchdown yet this season. I know, Big Ten opponent, blah, 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 all that. I get the feel this is going to be a turnover fest. We're going to be handing the ball back and forth. A punter might win MVP of the game. I'm going to go with under.
Ooh. Under 46.5.
Yes.
It's not sicko level, but it's not too far off.
We're getting there. We're close. We're close.
When you start getting into those low 40s, that's when we're having a conversation. One other thing we got to have a conversation about is, of course, our good friends at Charlie Hustle. Vintage-inspired college collegiate apparel. Friends of the 10-12 podcast, friends of the Big 12, creating incredible gear for you to wear all season long and to impress your friends and the other fans in the stands when you're at the game, because they've got all 16 Big 12 teams. They launched the new schools this summer. They dropped great stuff. I've got the Arizona shirt. The mascot shirt is still awesome. They've got great UCF gear. They have great stuff for every single Big 12 fan. Absolutely incredible stuff. And look, if you're a Kansas State, Iowa State fan, they're based in Kansas City, which is why they have a ton of gear for you. And I mean a ton. Really good stuff. They've got a couple of Cincinnati things on sale as well. Like, y'all, charliehustle.com. That's where you're going to go. You're going to load your cart up. If it's on sale, you're good. If it's not on sale, then use the promo code 101215. TEN1215. That gets you 15% off all non-sale items. Christmas is coming. Start doing some shopping. Just get it knocked out. Just start whichever team your family members are fans of. Just load up. Get it now. Use that promo code 101215. Keep an eye out. They got promos all the time. $20 t-shirts like through the month. They have t-shirt Tuesday every Tuesday. Go support Charlie Hustle. In part because they support us, and in part because they love the Big 12 and do so much cool stuff for the Big 12, and because they just make good stuff and their stuff is super comfortable. So, charliehustle.com, promo code 101215 for 15% off all non-sale items. Charlie Hustle, vintage made fresh. All right, we're moving down the list of games. Our last morning game on FS1, 11 o'clock Gobs time, Lubbock, Texas. Texas Tech hosting North Texas. Not technically a rivalry. They've only played 8 times, but it's 2 in-state teams, which is still fun. Granted, it is the state of Texas, and there's so many teams in Texas that, it's like there's like 6 states in the state of Texas. Like, it's kind of hard to have everyone's an in-state rivalry. Still, North Texas is going to be excited for this one because they could take off a power conference school in the state of Texas. So they're going to be amped up for this game on Saturday. Texas Tech, currently a 9.5-point favorite over North Texas. Total around 69. Nice. I believe that I'm up first. Haha, me. Okay. I don't have a lot of notes on this one. I don't think North Texas is very good. Texas Tech's not very good. They are injured. I don't know who's left to play linebacker for Texas Tech at all. I don't know who's playing linebacker. Is Taj Brooks back for this game? I hope so. He wasn't there last weekend. He didn't play. Is he healthy? I don't know. And Baron Morton has not been awesome. He has not been awesome so far. They're back home. I would expect a better performance on offense than what we got all the way up in Pullman, Washington. Again, North Texas is not very good. 9.5 seems like a reasonable number for Texas Tech to win by over North Texas. I'm just so concerned about their defense and their inability to actually stop much of anybody. I don't want to touch that total, though. If I did, I would take the under. I'm just going to make a pick I don't like, but I feel the best about, and take Texas Tech minus 9.5. Myles?
Yeah, this is a tough one to look at. Texas Tech allowed 51 points to Abilene Christian. I get it was overtime, but 51 points. We would just need North Texas to score a couple touchdowns to get, flirting with that total there. I don't know if Texas Tech had the firepower to keep up with Washington State. Not saying that they're a juggernaut necessarily, but like we said, Texas Tech's not a great football team. There's questions about Joey McGuire. Is he going to rally and save his job again? Are we back to saving a job a second time? And then there's UNT, who's played South Alabama and Stephen F. Austin. Granted, they won both games, but allowing 58 points combined to Stephen F. Austin and South Alabama, I don't know. Overs are fun. They're never dead until the clock hits double zeros. I'm going to take the over. I mean, I'm going to ride it till the end. If I'm flipping away from the last game, if I'm flipping away from Cincinnati and Miami, I might as well flip over to this one and root for an over. So let's take it.
Over 69. Nice. Chase?
Phillip, you mentioned the lingering health concerns for the defense for Texas Tech, and that's kind of where I'm focused here. It's really hard to open as a double-digit favorite when you're this banged up on defense and you can't get stops. And I think we saw that in the Washington State game, and I think we saw that in the Abilene Christian game. So I'm looking at the North Texas side of this. I think the market is actually with me. This opens at UNT plus 11. It's down to 9.5, and it's kind of been frozen there ever since. I'll take the 9.5 points with North Texas in one of those games that's from a real life perspective, no feel for this. No, I have no clue where I would remotely think about betting. But for the show, give me the 9.5 points.
It's yours. All right. It's time. Time for one of the best rivalries in college football. 2:30 p.m. God's time on ESPN2 in Pittsburgh. It is the Backyard Brawl between West Virginia and lowercase p Pitt, a game that's been played 106 times. The team that we won't talk about anymore owns the series, but we don't care because WVU has won 4 of the last 5. Before I give out the numbers, because Myles is up first, or do you want to do it off the top here, or do you want to wait till it's your turn, Chase?
I've always considered myself a closer, Phillip. So, maybe we bookend this.
Okay. All right. That's fine with me. We got Chase has a little something cooked up here. I don't know what it is. So let me just say that on behalf of the 1012 podcast and 1012 network, whatever Chase is going to do here at the end is not said on behalf of the podcast and network. So just roll with it. West Virginia currently a 2-point favorite on the road at lowercase p Pitt, total at around 64.5. Myles, you're up first, sir. What would you like?
First off, this is one of the better rivalries in college football. I mean, this is like what dreams are made of. It's called the Backyard Brawl. Like, this is what you do with your cousins on Saturday afternoons after catching a game or before catching a game. Like, there is no love lost here on this game. I don't know. I've kind of got faith in West Virginia. I know we've stumbled a little bit so far this season. They returned their top 3 rushers from last year. Donaldson is electric out of the backfield. Definitely don't let him get in space. Don't let him get to the second level because he can make a move. And their quarterback, Garrett Green, he hasn't been like necessarily the reason they lost to Penn State. I mean, there were so many reasons in that game. That was an ugly game to watch from the beginning. It didn't look like either team wanted to win that game. But I feel like if they go on the road to Pitt and they basically execute a game plan, I feel like West Virginia is the better team here. I don't think that Pittsburgh was necessarily, or as we're referring to them, lowercase Pitt. I don't think they should have won that game last week. I feel like that game was handed to them. That's why we watch the games, right? Why we tune in on Saturdays. I got to take West Virginia minus the points. I just feel like they're the better team, like at almost every position. And I feel like if they can establish the run game and they can commit to a game plan, this should be an easy one.
I've got a 1.5 for you. So there you go.
We'll take the 1.5.
Chase?
Do you want this to happen now?
Do you want me to pick and then you can make your pick and then you can
how about you pick?
Okay, I'll pick real quick. I think West Virginia is the right side here, but I'm actually interested in the total. The total is at 64.5. Here's where the total is projected across all of my favorite people. SP Plus, 57. T-Shoe, 57.5. FEI, 51.7. Beta, 55.64. Parker, 56.05. Under 64.5 in the Backyard Brawl. Chase, the floor is yours.
I actually think the over is the smart play here. Over 63.5. We know the WVU offense can move the ball and score. The defense isn't terrible, but I just don't think it's great either. I think Albany had almost 400 yards of offense, about 8 yards per pass play. Pitt, we saw enough in that Cincinnati comeback that it seems like they'll be able to move the ball. I don't know how well they'll score in the red zone because I think West Virginia's kind of got a bend, don't break thing going on, but I think they're going to get some points. Even though this series doesn't have a ton of high-scoring history, I think the over is probably the wise play here. But look, I've mentioned I've been to Stillwater, so I can confirm it's pretty far from Western Pennsylvania. So, Phillip, you may not know this, but the thing about Pittsburgh is that it sucks. Actually, grab your bleep button. It fucking sucks, okay? And I hate it. I hate Pittsburgh. It is a football program that literally no one cares about. They can't fill their stadium. They just fired their AD because everyone knows there are no Pittsburgh Panthers fans to be found anywhere. Myles is realizing in real time right now that I'm a West Virginia guy. I've never met a Pittsburgh fan that wasn't alive during the Vietnam War. Absolutely true. Ask a Pittsburgh fan what they love about Pittsburgh football. They will tell you about how West Virginia couldn't beat them in the 1960s and how the 1937 team is historically underrated. Something about Larry Fitzgerald and Aaron Donald. Cool. The Oakland Zoo should be renamed the Oakland Nursery because I have seen preschoolers who get more fussy than their fans. West Virginia travels well because it's like an hour and 20 up to that stupid-ass tunnel city whose bridges look like they're trying to pay homage to Big Bird from Sesame Street. And I'll tell you what else. Phillip. Primanti Brothers sucks. I said it. I swear to God, I've had better pastrami in Harrisonburg after a JMU tailgate. The Dark Knight Rises was the worst of the 3 Nolan Batman films. You named your most famous stadium, for your favorite team after a bottle of ketchup, then switched it to a fintech sponsorship to try to be cool. It didn't work. Black and Yellow was the dumbest and most inexplicable hit song of the entire 2010s. I'm including Rebecca Black in that. Yins isn't a word. Paul Skeens is nothing without Livy Dunn. And Mr. Rogers' estate. Better hope they change Daniel Tiger's name to Daniel Panther, because that is the only way this moribund collegiate franchise can ever hope to be relevant again. Let's go Mountaineers, West Virginia -1.5.
Let's go. That's what I'm here for.
Gonna spend my lunch break on Thursday clipping that and posting it. I should have began that. Let it started with earmuffs, kids, but that's fine. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. That might bring a tear to the raspy voice kid's eye when I make sure that they listen to that one.
That cover's got to be the lock of the year, right? Like, I mean, just clip that whole thing and play that for West Virginia before the game. Like, done. It's done.
I'm Neil's secret weapon. I'm hoping that's the best. I'm hoping that's the best West Virginia pregame speech since Bill Stewart. Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful. That was excellent. Okay, well, we have to keep going from there. I mean, normally I would just say let's just wrap the show at that point because I don't know how it's going to get any better. But we have many more games to pick, so let's move on to the next one. It is another little in-state rivalry. This one, the battle of the brothers between Utah and Utah State. Utah going on the road to Logan. Ooh, this is fun. This is fun. Utah was Utah State's primary rival until the 70s when Utah fans started to make the Holy War the primary rivalry game. There you go. Utah owns this series 79-30-4. They played every year from 1944 until Utah left for the Pac-12 in 2010. Its first meeting since 2015 and the first game in a 3-game series between the two teams. That's just fun. Like just in-state stuff. This is good. This is good. Utah currently a 20-point favorite at Utah State. Total at 44.5. Chase, you're up first, sir. What would you like?
Yeah, I think I prefer the points here with Utah State. I think I know what happened with Cam Rising last week, but it feels like Utah, it's going to be in Utah's DNA this year to smother a team early, run out the clock late. And I think one of the places you're going to see that show up is in the point spread market when they're a really big favorite. I think you add in the fact that this is a rivalry game of some kind or another. They're on the road and you're getting 20 points and the hook last I saw. Like, I just think that's a really big number to swallow on the road. And if I get burnt by Utah scoring, 40 or 50 points and covering a number like this, then I'm kind of okay with that.
Okay. Utah State plus I got 20.5 for you. I agree Utah State plus 20.5 seems like the right side because look, USC shut out Utah State last week, and I understand that USC's defense is better this year, but it's still USC's defense. It's still a waiting game in regards to whether or not Cam Rising plays in this game. We don't know. If he doesn't, if he does, Utah just needs to get up 2 touchdowns and bench him and keep him healthy for conference play and then just, slowly run the ball and run the clock out. Utah State might not score in this game. So, I mean, I don't think Utah's going to have to do much to get the cover, which is the concern. I would lean 20.5 on Utah State, kind of like last week where they let Baylor kind of score late. The points didn't do anything except affect, the bettor's pockets. Because of that, I know it's a low total. I'm taking the under 44.5 because, again, I don't think Utah's going to have to do much. And now, look, Utah State may be so bad, Utah might accidentally score 50 on them, right? But I don't know that Utah State's going to score much. I can see this going either way if Utah gets the cover and doesn't. I kind of like the under here because, again, I don't think Utah's going to do much, needs to do much. You've got a road trip to Oklahoma State next week you've got to get ready for. You need to keep Cam Rising's throwing hand healthy for that. And we saw what the offense looked like against Baylor last week when Cam Rising went out. It's not, they set on the ball, but also it wasn't real pretty. So I'm going to take the under 44.5. I think it's a low-scoring affair that Utah wins fairly comfortably, but I just feel better about the under. Myles?
Phillip, I didn't know that you were a mind reader because while you were going through all that, I'm looking at my notes and we are right on the same page. My notes say could be a look ahead for Utah before Oklahoma State, opening up conference play in a conference where Utah fans have been saying we're going to run the conference, and the rest of the Big 12 has said, haha, good luck. I think it's going to be a big look ahead for that team as far as Cam Rising goes. If we're wondering whether or not he's going to play, he's probably going to play if he plays until they've got a comfortable lead, up 2 or 3 touchdowns, pull him, run the clock. That's Utah's game. They're looking to get out. They're looking to win games. They're not looking to blow people out or anything like that. They don't have any upside to blowing out Utah State and getting players tired before their game next week to open conference play. Looking at this, it looks like I've got an open at 22 points favorites, or a 22-point favorite. Utah was at open, and it's down under 21. Talking about key numbers. I don't want to touch that, crossing a key number and betting on whether or not Cam Rising is going to play or whether or not he's healthy. I'm also going to stick with the under.
I love it. We have our first Big 12 game of the season that counts toward the conference standings, not to be confused with the game on Friday or the game last weekend. TCU hosting UCF, a first ever meeting between these two teams. That's fun. Y'all, that's some fun stuff. This game is 6:30 p.m. Central Time on Fox in Fort Worth. UCF. Or hold on, it moved on me. Why did you update? Stinking VSIN. There it is. UCF, a 2.5-point road favorite in this game at this particular moment. Total around 61.5. I see some 62.5s as well. I am up first here. TCU's defensive line versus UCF's offensive line and running backs, to me, are going to decide this game. TCU is only allowing 90 yards per game on the ground, has only given up 1 rushing touchdown, but that is against FCS Long Island and a Stanford team that's not running the ball all that well. UCF runs the ball 73% of the time, but they've been able to. They don't have to throw it because the competition has not been somebody where they've been struggling. Like, you've been up big, you can just run the ball. The total I don't want to do anything with because I would lean under in a game where I think one team's going to run the ball a lot, but I don't feel comfortable there. Well, then I get to our projections. SP plus TCU minus 0.9. TCU minus 1.5. FEI TCU minus 0.4. Beta TCU minus 1.9. Parker TCU minus 3.8. Kelly Ford, UCF, with a 52% chance to win. The numbers all favor TCU in this one. TCU's at home. UCF struggled on the road in Big 12 play last year. This is a new year. Completely understand that. They've done a lot of work to try and improve their secondary. But UCF hasn't played anybody. You've had 2 home games against Sam Houston State, who was an FCS team last year, and an FCS team. I just don't know what to expect from UCF, and I'm a little bit worried that they haven't challenged themselves yet, and now they're going to go on the road to TCU, who at least has challenged themselves some by opening up on the road at Stanford. I'm going to lean with the home team here in this one, TCU plus 2.5. I like UCF a lot. All this preseason, I've been very high on them. I think they have a legitimate chance to get to Arlington. I think they're that the dark horse team for me. I love KJ Jefferson. He looked so much better last week than week 1. It's the best running back room in the Big 12, and that's saying something because West Virginia's is really good too, but RJ Harvey is just so good as an RB1. I think this is a close game. I think there's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be an exciting one. I'm going to take TCU, though, to force KJ Jefferson to have to throw more, limit the UCF rushing attack that's looked invincible through 2 weeks against Air. I'm going to take TCU plus 2.5 and to get the outright win here on Saturday. Myles.
Yeah, I know we didn't exactly I don't know. This one's tough. I'll start here. It's difficult to get a pulse on either the fan base or the team so far. KJ Jefferson did not look like we were sold in our first game against an FCS like New Hampshire, who finished in the bottom half of their FCS conference last year. He doesn't look like the SEC starting quarterback, 5th-year transfer that everyone is talking about. But yet we won by 54 points. The entire fan, well, not the entire, a large portion of the fan base was very vocal on Twitter and was not happy with the performance, basically. So there's that. KJ's got to bounce back. He's got to be, if TCU is going to force him to throw the ball, he's only thrown the ball 29 times through 2 games. That's not something that UCF fans are used to. UCF fans are used to, let's go out, let's throw it up to 30, 35 times a game. I mean, 15 passes per game is it's a little bit of a culture shock for us. The run game, dominant. Like dominant. Over 400 yards per rushing per game throughout the first part of the season. The only question is, how do we balance that? There are 4 guys in that room. It's a quadruple-headed monster between R.J. Harvey, Myles Montgomery, Penny Boone, and Johnny Richardson. How do we get the ball into their hands and make sure that all of them are happy? There's only so many snaps a game. So we got to balance that. The defense under Ted Roof, we were sold, should be improved. I need to see them against a top 60 offense, like top half in FBS. We haven't seen that yet. So I'm still skeptical there. I don't like this game. This game sets the tone for the rest of the UCF season. We lose this game, we're going into Colorado, could get into a shootout, this or that. I don't know. I'm feeling under. I'm going to trust the defense. I don't know if KJ is necessarily going to throw the ball that many times. I think we're going to run the ball and hope that Ted Roof has got the defense ready to go. So I'm going to take the under.
It is under 62.5 is the best number I can get you.
That is hopefully good enough.
Chase.
I guess I'm the one of the 3 of us that really likes UCF in this spot. I am not a TCU believer. I actually think the Sam Houston win for UCF is going to age maybe a little bit better than you guys do. So I'm a little bit higher on them coming off that result last week. The market here, I think the Virgin opener here was TCU minus 1.5, and the market has moved this 4 points in UCF's direction. I actually agree with that market movement. Now, of course, if you're going to bet this, you want to have it at the 2.5 jumping off point now. You want to get it before it goes to 3. So I am going to slide in here at UCF minus 2.5. I like what they have on offense. And I think in the event that this turns into who can execute what they're good at the best, I think that is UCF's offense and running the ball and being productive when they have possession. I think that can be what defines this game. So I'll lay the short number with UCF.
All right. Sounds good. Also at 6:30 p.m. on Saturday on FS1, Baylor hosting Air Force in Waco. I don't have any notes on this one because it's not a rivalry. It's just kind of a weird matchup. Baylor is currently about a 15.5 point favorite. Total is around 41.5. I believe I'm up first. All right. SP Plus has Baylor minus 16.8. TSU has Baylor minus 12. FEI has Baylor minus 2.9. Beta has Baylor minus 7.12. Parker has Baylor minus 4.28. I don't know anything about Air Force, and I don't have notes on this game. I think Baylor wins this game. It is 15.5. Little worried about having to pick Baylor to win a game by more than 2 touchdowns based off of what I have seen so far. But again, I don't know how good Air Force is at all. So I'm going to... I hate this. I really do. I don't know. So I'm just going to pick Baylor. No, I got a 16. I'm going to take Air Force plus 16. I think Baylor wins this. I don't like picking Baylor by more than 2 touchdowns. So I'm not going to. So I'll take Air Force plus 16. Baylor gets the win, but not the cover. Myles?
Philip, a lot like you, I don't have a ton of notes on this game. This is one that kind of slips under the radar. Air Force at Baylor. Yeah, I'm going to so Air Force being an academy team, normally we expect them to run the ball um, and basically just run the ball. Their quarterback has thrown the ball 34 times this season. That's 17 attempted passes through 2 games. Granted, he's thrown 2 picks. I'm going to take the over. Maybe we get a couple of pick sixes, some chaos happens, or Air Force comes out, puts up enough points as the dog here and gets us over. I've got 41 and a half.
Yep, that's what I got.
All right.
Chase?
Yeah, on a Big 12 schedule that has a lot of interesting games, but not a lot of games I really like in real life betting terms. This is a sleepy one that I have real money on. I really like the under in this game. Air Force was quite good last year. It had a ton of roster turnover from last year to this year. I mean, we're talking like single digit starters back. It's very, very high turnover. And you've seen the impact it's had on that sort of speed option offense that it runs when you look at the first 2 games that they've played. Only 21 points against Merrimack, which is not a good FCS program. Single touchdown at home against San Jose State last week. The offense here is not good. And one of the things I've seen with Baylor is that, Baylor rightfully gets coded as a team whose coach is on the hot seat this year. We don't know if Aranda's going to be back next year. They're toward the bottom of the Big 12. And so the market is very, very down on them. And I don't think I shared it on the podcast here in week 1 because I came to the thought so late. But I thought, are we being kind of too cute with Baylor against an FCS team as only like a 24-point favorite? And I kind of came in late, put a little bit on Baylor, and that ended up being a really nice betting spot. And I thought the same thing here. Not necessarily from a point spread perspective, but like, okay, we're still talking about Dave Aranda. He knows how to coach defense. Coaching against service academies is all about like gap soundness, run fits, discipline, knowing the assignment, that kind of stuff. And you're playing against an Air Force team that basically lost its entire offense. So I really like Baylor's defense to control Air Force in this game. I think I would not be surprised if Air Force scores 3 points or less in this game. And for that reason, I think you see the market accounting for that in the total market. 41 and a half is a pretty low number for college football. And it's on the underneath side of that key number of 42. So I think the sportsbook is tipping their hand a little bit, setting that at 41 and a half. This is an expected low scoring game. I think we're going to get a low scoring game where Baylor's defense completely controls what Air Force does when they have the ball. So give me under 41 and a half.
I would like to change my pick, but I won't. Okay. One more 6:30 p.m. game. This one on CBS. Another rivalry game. I love this. The Rocky Mountain Showdown. Colorado at Colorado State. Pity we'll have to wait 5 years before we see this matchup on the gridiron again. This game is being played in Fort Collins for the first time since 1996. Colorado leads the series 68-22-2 and has won the last 6 meetings, including last season's double overtime ratings bonanza come from behind victory for the Buffs. Woohoo! Colorado needs themselves a win to lick some wounds. Colorado right now a 7-point favorite. Ooh, I see a 7.5. Oh, I see a 6.5. Oh, mama. Total pretty much 58.5 across the board. Myles, I believe you are up first, sir. What would you like here?
Ooh, I think this is going to be a good game. Just because it's going to be the unraveling of everything that we've seen coming out this week. Looking at Colorado specifically, Shadur Sanders leaving a game with 2 minutes left to go. I mean, I know you're down 18 points, but leaving the field with 2 minutes of football time to go is a look. Travis Hunter, probably one of the best overall players in all of college football. I mean, he plays almost every snap, every game. He's unreal. Like it's alien-like, really. Visibly upset, like on the sidelines. I think I don't know. I think the Deion Sanders experiment at Colorado may be over. Um, I've been listening to a lot of national podcasts, a lot of people that have insight and things like that, and they've always kind of questioned that move by Colorado. Like, it is an experiment. Will this work? Can you overturn a roster year after year through the transfer portal? Can you build an O-line through the transfer portal? All these things. And then to be trying to do that and then have your starting quarterback in a press conference right after the game asking how many times the opposing quarterback was touched. I didn't play college football. I played in high school. I was a center and a long snapper. If your starting quarterback is asking how many times the opposing quarterback got touched, that's a problem. And that's the first way to not have their total commitment, if that makes any sense. Um, I don't know. This was a shootout last year. Um, I think I'm going to stick with Colorado State here. Colorado, the first time something goes wrong, I feel like as a team is going to give up. I'm just going straight on vibes with this one. Colorado State's got everything to play for. They're at home. They got beat last year in the shootout. They want more than anything to beat Deion Sanders and to beat Shadur Sanders and to beat this Colorado team. I don't want to call it their Super Bowl necessarily. They've got bigger things to play for within their conference, but I like you said I can get 7.5 at home with Colorado State. I'm going to take the 7.5.
It's yours, sir. It's all yours. Chase?
Phillip, I defer to you. I'm seeing 7.5, and it's juiced at like minus 122. So I think that's kind of a 7. I don't think it matters. I'll speak for myself. I'm taking, if 7 or 7.5, I'm on the Colorado State side with Myles here. So I'll let you be the final arbiter on the number. I think Myles nailed it there at the end with a couple things. The first sign of trouble on this team, I think it's going to fall apart. Colorado could be good. Colorado could be bad. Deion Sanders could be a good coach. He could be a shit coach, right? There's a lot of things that are in play and possible. What I'm sure of is that Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter are going to go to the NFL next year, and that they see the light at the end of the tunnel on this Colorado time of their life. They know they have a next step. And I fail to see how there is not going to be a rift between the Sanders corner of this team that see a big, bright future ahead of them and millions of dollars in marketing and NFL contracts, and the rest of this team that is not that talented, not terribly well put together, not effective in very large and important parts of the game plan. And where I disagree with Myles is I will say this is Colorado State's Super Bowl, okay? They do not like this team. They made it very clear last year. They know how close they came to winning this game in Boulder, and now they get to play it in Fort Collins. And I think if you gave those players truth serum and said, would you rather be in it at the end of the year in the Mountain West standings, or would you rather beat Deion Sanders' Colorado team? I think they'd take the latter. I truly believe that. So I think the crowd, I think this whole thing is all fired up in Fort Collins this weekend. But most importantly, from a handicapping perspective, what on earth have we seen from Colorado that they should be laying a full touchdown on the road? There's just nothing there. And I have to assume that this number is what it is because the sports book still senses some appetite for all of the public money on Colorado. But man, that is going to dry up really fast here in a minute. After you watch a team get its ass kicked the way it did by Nebraska, there is a limited resource pool and a limited willingness to sign up and bet that team as a road favorite over and over again. So I just don't see it with this number. Give me Colorado State plus the points, and this is, as you probably guessed, your Big 12 bet of the week.
I love that this is the Big 12 bet of the week.
Yeah.
Colorado needs to win this game. Like, we can talk about being Colorado State's Super Bowl. If Colorado loses this game, I do think it's going to get ugly fast. Like, I absolutely do. And how Deion didn't handle, like, he left the field early. All you had to do is get out there and lie, but like, hey, you know what? We knew the fans were going to rush the field. Hey, you know what? He got a little banged up. We're just trying to focus on the field. Like, all you had to do is save your son's butt by saying one thing at the press conference and he's covered. Right? We can all articulate, but he would have said something, we would have been fine. We would have gone. But no, you didn't. You didn't protect him. So good job.
Or not put him in the press conference. Like, don't let him talk in that emotional state. Say he was banged up and just take him out of it. Sorry.
But they don't care. That's the thing.
I know.
They don't. It doesn't matter. He's a first round draft pick no matter what. Yeah. And that's what their goal is. And
well, it is.
To their
and
credit,
it's not about being the number one pick. It's going to be about getting to the team that they want to get to.
Yes, which I talked about a couple weeks ago. Like,
yes.
they correctly sense, like, I will give them a lot of credit here. They understand what their goals are and what their leverage is. And they don't care to pay lip service to this other stuff that doesn't matter. And beating Nebraska in a storied rivalry, old Big 8 rivalry between Colorado and Nebraska, does not matter to them. It's not important to them. It's not part of their goals.
Correct. Bill Connolly's SP Plus rankings that includes all of FBS, FCS, D2, D3, and AIA. North Dakota State is at 67. Colorado State's 123rd. Like, I get all of it, but Colorado State's bad. Like, Colorado State is bad. Shiloh Sanders is out 2 to 3 weeks. He's awful. In fact, Nebraska didn't score again after he left the game. I don't know if, I'm not saying that there's a direct correlation, but, you know, he's real bad. No running back Dallas Hayden. Probably doesn't matter because Colorado doesn't and can't run the ball. They've got 75 total rushing yards on the season through 2 games. Oh, by the way, they don't really have a tight end either, so like they can't pass or run block anyways. It's just throw the ball. Throw the ball. Shooter Sanders runs, get sacked, throw the ball. All that said, I do think that they don't care, but I also think you can do enough this season to damage Shador's reputation and knock him down and lose some leverage if things get bad, like real bad. And Deion's got to be smart enough to figure that out. Maybe he's not. Maybe it doesn't matter. I think Colorado needs to win this game. Needs to. They really do think they do. There's a 6.5. You've got plus 7.5 at minus 122. There's a minus 6.5 at 121. So I get it under touchdown. I'm not going to consensus. I'll take Colorado minus 6.5 to get the win and win by touchdown. It's like, it's not even the game. Like the game, yeah, but it's like, it's going to be like the story after the game is going to be way bigger than the game itself. So we continue our rivalry week. We the last two. This is some fun stuff. 7:00 ESPN Plus down at TD-ECU Stadium. If there's a pronunciation for that, I don't know what it is. Houston hosting Rice. The Bayou Bucket. It's been played 45 times since the two teams first faced off back in 1971 when Houston joined the now defunct Southwest Conference. Houston leads the series 33-12, but Houston won the last matchup last year 43-41. Less than 4 miles separates the two schools in the city of Houston. This game should be played every year. The two teams will face off again next year before the series goes back on hiatus. Houston, just schedule Rice. Like, just do it. Just, like, you need the wins, first of all. So just schedule. Well, you didn't beat him last year, so that may not matter. Granted, I do think Willie Fritz is deciding to not do the Daniel Holgerson and build his entire roster out of 35 wide receivers. At least that's what it looks like to me at this point. So we'll see how that works for him. Houston. Okay, we got to talk about this line movement. Up to a 4 to 4.5 point favorite. That feels like it's moved more towards Houston. Chase, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Total on this is about 44.5. Chase, has that line moved more towards Houston, or am I wrong?
It has moved toward Houston since it opened. I'm seeing open 5.5. So yeah, point to point and a half of movement depending on your book.
Okay. I have lost track of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Too many games.
Oh, it's me.
Not
It's
too many
my
games.
turn. No, whose turn is next? I don't know whose turn is next. I think it's my turn. Who started last time? Chase or me? No, I don't know.
I think it was Myles.
I think
I do think Myles did. All right, guess what? Chase, you're up. What would you like?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But give me Rice plus the points here. I mean, do we want to do like 30 seconds on what on earth was that Houston Oklahoma game? Because is there a team you have less of a feel for right now in the Big 12 than what is Houston? Because they get slaughtered by UNLV in week 1. And we could talk all about, hey, adjustments from week 1 to week 2, but I don't see what the mathematical equation is that gets you from we're going to get our butt kicked by UNLV at home to we're going to go on the road and play Oklahoma to a draw. It's just, I don't know what that is. So you kind of have to pick a lane here, pick a theory to explain what is going on. And then Rice, for their half of it, what did they do in week 1? They got pretty thoroughly beaten by the Sam Houston team that UCF turned around and just dog walked around Orlando. So, I mean, it is a very strange combination of games here. I am going to take in a crosstown rivalry game, give me the Nerds plus the points. I feel like Houston's going to be one of those teams. They can cover some numbers this year as a dog, but it's probably a team you don't want to lay points with. And so for that reason, and because I have no other explanation of how to cap this game, give me Rice plus the points.
Everything's on Houston's side here. To sum it up, the lowest is SP Plus at Houston minus 2.8. The biggest is FEI at Houston minus 14.4, and then everything is in between. Kelly Ford has Houston to win, 61% chance. This is the last time Kelly Ford has Houston favored in a game. The next best odds is 35% at Cincinnati next week. So this is the best shot based off the schedule for Houston to get a W. I mean, they almost pulled it off against OU. I think that says more about OU than it does about Houston last week, but who the hell knows? Houston's offense is not working. It's just not. I don't know enough about Rice, but I don't think their offense is especially good. I think Houston wins this. If this was a smaller number, I'd take Houston. I realize 4 or 4.5 isn't a big number, but I don't really want to have to deal with that. I can't believe I'm going to do this. I'm going to take under 44.5, which is why Houston will explode for 30-something points this week. But I'm going to take the under. I haven't seen anything from Houston's offense that leads me to believe that they're going to put up a lot of points against anybody. I don't have a feeling that Rice's offense is some sort of potent, unearthed juggernaut. So I'm going to take the under and say this is a low-scoring, ugly affair that Houston finds a way to come out on the right side of. Myles?
Yeah, if we're picking theories here, the theory I'm going to go with is, like you said, Houston's offense is bad. Leading rusher through 2 games only has 36 total yards. Quarterback has thrown 1 touchdown to 3 interceptions. In fact, Houston, my big concern is their offensive line, because Houston as a team has 96 total rushing yards through 2 games. 96. That would be bad for a 1-game stretch, let alone 2.
Still more than Houston, or than Colorado. Still more than Colorado.
That's fair. Rice has 21 tackles for loss and 11 sacks through 2 games. Granted, this is Sam Houston and Texas Southern, but I think just looking at Houston's offensive production, especially with rushing yards, Rice is going to look to cause havoc. This is another, full disclaimer, I also attended Sam Houston State. So I'm quite familiar with that Houston, Rice, Sam Houston State little stretch of 45 there. Rice is looking to kind of get one back at Houston, because this is another little local rivalry where Houston has always said Rice is not a rival of ours. Houston has always looked to punch up at Texas A&M, Texas, so on and so forth. I think Rice is going to look to cause havoc. games are won in the trenches. Looking at 21 tackles for a loss and 11 sacks through 2 games versus 96 total yards rushing, I'm going to take Rice plus the points.
I like it.
Phil, just to clean one thing up here, because it's after 10:30 on the East Coast, and evidently my brain has stopped working. The number here has moved 1 to 1.5 points toward Rice, not toward Houston.
Got it. Yeah, I figured that out, but I just figured we'd move on since we're at an hour and a half.
I don't want some 10-12 podcast subscriber chatting up a girl at the bar this weekend. Like, the point spread's actually moved 1.5 toward Houston this game, and she might have gone home with him, but she got the line movement wrong. So
you are a gentleman and a scholar. All right, last Big 12 game on the schedule. Oh, sorry, everybody. BYU at Wyoming. Okay, there's no official name or trophy for this one, but this is an old Mountain West rivalry. BYU leads the series 46-30-3 and has won the last 9 in a row. As Lavelle Edwards, former BYU coach, once said about playing the Cowboys in Laramie, quote, "I'd rather lose and live in Provo than win and live in Laramie." I love stuff like that. So, it's a rivalry, even if it's not actually a trophy rivalry. BYU. Oh, this one's all over. I got anywhere from 10.5 to 11.5 point favorite on the road. Total is 40.5. Oh my gosh, we are really pushing those totals down. I believe it is Chase went first last time, so it is me again. Cool beans. I'm not going to overreact to BYU's 2-0 start, but Wyoming is bad. They got housed by Arizona State, and they lost to FCS Idaho last week, managing just 13 points. I think BYU's defense is good enough to limit Wyoming to, I don't know, I understand the whole, you don't want to play Wyoming and Laramie. It's a tough team to play there. Texas Tech learned that last year. This is not the same Wyoming. It's not the same Wyoming. New coaching staff, new team, new everything. I don't, this is not going to be like normal. I think the side here is either BYU or the under, because I haven't loved BYU's offense either. It hasn't been super awesome. It wasn't against SMU last week. It was enough to beat SMU on the road. This game is also on the road. Rhett's last been kind of I don't know what to expect from Wyoming on the road. This game could get weird. I may regret this, but I'm a little wary of BYU. BYU's 2-0, but it's not willing to take them by more than 10 points, 2-0. Am I really going to do another one of these? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Last week was all overs. And this week I have 1, 2, 3, 4 unders. Give me another under. No. God, I can't do it. Okay, yeah, I am. 40.5, under 40.5 on the road in Laramie. I'm not going to stay up to watch this one, folks. I'm just not going to do it. By the way, this one is at 8 p.m. Central Time on CBS Sports Network. So, yeah. Myles.
Yeah, CBS Sports Network is a tough draw, especially for a late night on a stinker like this. Because they take a time or a TV break every 3 minutes of game time, something like that. That's what it seems like, at least. Yeah, I don't know. I'm willing to take a chance. Wyoming just went through a head coaching change, the first time in a decade? And it seems like with college football, that's happening every 2 or 3 years now. So a lot of change in Wyoming. Laramie is not the same place that it was. It's, yeah, I don't know. BYU only allows 14 points a game. Wyoming only scores 10 a game. So to me, I would lean under here as well. In fact, I just sat here and changed my notes while you were speaking, Phillip. I was going to go under, but I'm going to lay the 10.5 with BYU.
Yeah, 10.5. It's yours, sir. Chase?
Yeah, I mean, Laramie has gotten a lot of teams over the years, but it's tough to bounce the Laramie home field advantage 96 hours after they lose to Idaho. So I am also going to join Myles with the laying the points with BYU. I don't think there's there's any need to belabor the point here. I think Cowboys might be really bad this year. So
Yeah, real bad. Real bad. Okay. We wrap this show up by doing a non-Big 12 pick. Pick any game you want outside of the Big 12. I've got something a little bit different this week, but I get to go last, so I'll save it. Myles, you are up first, sir. Where would you like to go all across college football this weekend?
All across college football, I'm gonna go back to Touchdown Jesus, where they're or wait, no, sorry, not Touchdown Jesus. Never mind. I got mixed up here. Let's flip that around. Sorry. We're gonna go over to Michigan, where we just got shellacked by the Longhorns last week. There are no two ways about it. Michigan's offense, not great. Shawn Moore, I think, might be. I don't know how long he's going to be in Michigan because they're not going to, the fan base and donors, etc., are not going to deal with basically going from national championship to should they be in the top 25. They're not going to hang around for that. Although Arkansas State on the road at Michigan, I'm not expecting them to score more than a touchdown, maybe a touchdown and a field goal. Michigan's one strength, they can run the ball. Donovan Edwards is, again, one of the better running backs in the nation if they can get it together. I don't expect them to throw the ball. I expect them to get out of this game, move on to next week, try to lick their wounds from last week against Texas, and move on into Big Ten play. So I'm going to take Arkansas State at Michigan under, I have 45.5. Oh, it looks like maybe it moved up to 47.5.
47.5.
I'm going to take under 47.5 then.
It's yours, sir.
Thank you.
Chase.
I actually like the Michigan side of that Arkansas State game. I talked on the show last week about how dreadful Arkansas State is and why you should bet Tulsa against them. That was a winner. I think this is going to be a big week for favorites in college football. Big favorites. So, like, I'm laying the points with Michigan. I'm laying the points with Missouri. I'm laying the points with Ole Miss and Georgia and all these big favorites. I think it's going to be a good week for them. But the team I am going to play here on the pod, I'm actually staying semi-close to home, at least in terms of what I know. I'm going to lay 3 with Indiana at UCLA. Very sleepy game that I think some sharps have caught on to because this actually opened at Indiana +1 and has been bet all the way to Indiana 3. UCLA is bad this year. They're rebuilding. Indiana's good. I've talked about this before. They have like 2/3 of JMU's starting defense from last year. It is a nasty defense. It's very good. Kurt Cignetti's blowing the crap out of people the first couple weeks with his Indiana team. So they're going to go to UCLA and I think beat up on a pretty dreadful Bruins team. I think if this game was a month from now, this would be closer to like Indiana -8.5. But because it's early and the market hasn't really caught on to the fact that Indiana football is actually good, you're getting a pretty solid team at -3, and I really like it.
Indiana -3. Okay. Last week, I picked Kentucky to cover a 10-point spread against South Carolina. And Kentucky didn't even score 10 points last week against South Carolina. They scored 6 points against South Carolina. Georgia's going to stomp Kentucky. But I'm not taking the spread, and I'm not taking total. I'm taking the Kentucky team total under 9.5 because I actually put a real dollar down because I only make dollar bets on Kentucky under 9.5. Because in 3 of the last 5 meetings, let me just tell you how many points Kentucky scored the last 5 years. 13-6, 13-3, and 0. Yeah. I feel comfortable that Kentucky only scored 6 points against South Carolina. I don't foresee them scoring more on Georgia. So I'm taking the Kentucky team total under 9.5 because they made me mad last week, and that's what I want to do.
Spiteful ticket.
Hey, We'll see how it works. I did. I put $1 on it. I was like, you know what? This is gonna be fun. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna watch and just be so mad if they somehow like score a touchdown late just to mess with me again. All right. This has been fun. This has been long. This has been a great show. Lots of picks. I enjoy it, but I would be lying if I said I'm not looking forward to having 8 games in a week as opposed to 15. Myles, man, you are a champ, a trooper, a true hero. Thank you for joining us tonight for this marathon picks pod. Do me a favor, man, for everybody who's still listening to the show and hasn't turned it off yet. Where can everybody check out the work you do covering college football betting and UCF?
Yeah, so I play a very small part at Sons of UCF. A lot of very talented people over there that write anything from betting picks to just fun monologues, all kinds of stuff at sonsofUCF.com. You can find any of our sound on any network, any platform that you find quality podcasts, Spotify, Apple, etc. You can find my work also on sonsofUCF.com. I'll be putting out weekly articles on my best bets in the Big 12 starting tomorrow. I didn't feel the need to do that on FCS or Sam Houston games. Go Bearcats. Although the rest of my work you can find on Twitter at _allnight_. That is all night with a K. I do weekly picks. I put full cards out. I put my 5 best bets of the week. Usually I do 3 Big 12 and 2 random college football games. But yeah, that's about it.
Chase, sir, plug it all.
At Chase A Kitty on the Twitter machine. BetMGM for the picks column, and Square Bets on iTunes and Spotify and wherever you listen to podcasts. We started the competition last week. The boys 4-1 in the Circa Millions contest. So hey, turns out we know what we're doing after all. We are in position to end up on that in the money on quarter 1.
Very good. All right. Check out every show on the network, 1012network.com. We are 1012 Network on Twitter and 1012 Pod on Thread and the Gram. It's 9:46. It's been an almost 2-hour podcast. If you stuck all the way to the end, you are also a trooper and a true hero. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll be back on Monday. We'll talk to y'all then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.